Undoubtedly, the title of this video is immediately going to polarize our viewer base, but as a disclaimer, before I start, I just want to remind both new and longtime fans of the channel that I am an absolute massive fan of both the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the DC Extended Universe. But before this video starts, I want to mention today's sponsor, Ridge Wallets. Ridge Wallets make the best minimalist wallets on the market. Like I've said before, I have had them on my radar ever since they were a Kickstarter-backed project, and both Garrick and I use Ridge Wallets daily. We're really happy to have them as a sponsor, and their commuter backpack was a lifesaver at New York Comic Con and when we travel in general for key issues. Ridge makes a wide variety of wallets in a bunch of different materials, including aluminum, titanium, Damascus steel, carbon fiber, and pure radioactive kryptonite. Additionally, their commuter backpack is insanely durable, and like I said, we think it's the perfect travel bag. They also make top quality phone cases, power banks, and knives. So if you're interested in picking one up, head to ridgewallets.com/keyissues to get 10% off. We don't advertise anything we don't actually use, so definitely check them out. Now back to the video. My opinions may not resonate well with you, and if that's the case, I welcome any constructive criticism in the comment section as long as you're cool. Joker is a film that I believe both Marvel and even future DC Universe films can learn a lot from. Joker is not a completely unique film. It does borrow and pay homage to other films heavily, namely Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy, which are two films that you should definitely watch if you want to appreciate Joker the most. And while not a perfect film, I think that Joker does a lot to herald a change in the way that we should start viewing comic book films in general. And this is kind of the central idea behind this video, the idea that the comic book film genre needs to grow and mature if it's going to continue. Channels like ours and our good friend Brown Table have pointed out in the past that it's safe to say that comic book films as a whole have become a fairly copy and paste genre. In fact, the term comic book film is now used as its own genre identifier, and it's widely considered to be a synonym for action blockbuster. Most of these films today exhibit the exact same plot elements, which are just modified versions of the classic hero's journey. And I wouldn't want to leave out the phrase hero's journey just in case some of you out there need me to say it in order to get what I mean. And this formula has been something that Disney and Marvel have been able to milk to the tune of billions of dollars from the box office. With the first 10 years of the Marvel Cinematic Universe ending and DC finally starting to get its footing in the market again, I think it's time that these studios try to fix what isn't broken. However, for the rest of this video, and speaking as a complete Marvel shill, I specifically want to target the MCU. And there's a good bit of reasoning behind why I think we need to do this. Where Deadpool showed the world that an R-rated comic book film could blow away financial expectations, Joker has shown the world that comic book films could transcend what the genre has become. Joker has kind of done the unthinkable. It may have finally allowed comic book characters and stories to be viewed as the art that longtime readers have always known that they were. Marvel really needs to adapt to the market. And while I'm in my 30s, most kids growing up today who started watching Marvel movies when they were between 5 and 10 are becoming young adults. These young adults are starting the process of looking at cinema, television, music, and media in a way that challenges their notion of the world. It's fairly commonplace, and it's part of self-identification and growing up. Now maybe you can kind of see where I'm going with this. I'm not going to spend a good bit of time discussing the social implications of a film like Joker because I really don't think that it has anything unique that other films haven't done before, but it is the first mainstream DC or Marvel comic book film to position itself outside of the formula that I listed before. Joker fits way more comfortably into the genre of psychological thriller than it could ever do into the blockbuster comic book action summer whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's easy, right? Wrong. And that's the exact reason that the media has painted this to be the most dangerous movie to come out in a long time, regardless of the fact that it's not even remotely new or unique. The mainstream media has been trying to tell you for months that if this movie is left unchecked, it would lead to biblical levels of unprecedented gun violence. This film, like no other film, was going to open the floodgates and normalize mental illness. This film was borderline irresponsible, and it would provide anybody teetering on the brink of sanity with all the rationale they would need to finally take the plunge and harm others. Except then it came out and nothing happened. Joker isn't that movie. Joker isn't a movie about glorifying gun violence or mental illness, and any rational person who's able to view this film would probably agree with me. And if this is you, and this is somehow what you took away from the film, then you took away the wrong thing. However, the concern, however dishonestly portrayed by the media, was displayed because of the fact that this movie was inadvertently lumped into a genre of films that's grown increasingly predictable. Because of the fact that Joker is a comic book character, and this is considered to be a comic book film, the implication here is that it's aimed at kids and teenagers. Comic book properties have always been aimed at children, but due to their immense popularity growth, the publishers have adapted comic book genres over the years. They identified that their readers were growing up, and as the readers grew, so did the maturity level of the content. For my friends and subscribers who read comics, could you imagine a 10-year-old trying to unravel Jonathan Hickman's X-Men or Avengers? Could you imagine a child trying to make sense of Punisher by Garth Ennis? Transmetropolitan by Warren Ellis? Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol, Neil Gaiman's Sandman, the list goes on and on. Where Golden and Silver Age comics were primarily easily digestible stories aimed at children and teenagers, Bronze through Modern Age comics have morphed to be aimed primarily at adults, especially with the modern price tag, am I right? No, but seriously, comics are way too expensive. And in my own opinion, I think we need that same type of flexibility in cinema. Joker shows us that there's room at the table to tell different types of stories to different maturity levels. The onus is on the studios to make sure that they effectively communicate to the core audience that the films are aimed towards, but there is room for a new genre of film to emerge here. And again, as a perfect example, Deadpool spent a lot of money marketing that the film was not aimed at children. It was actively telling you, don't bring viewers to the theater, yet it still made buckets full of money. And again, Joker's being positioned as this dangerous movie that obviously parents aren't going to bring their kids to see, yet somehow it managed to have the highest R-rated gross opening in the history of October. But it's not DC or Marvel's job to do parents' research for them into what movie they should or should not show their kid. After all, most parents wouldn't buy a copy of The Killing Joke for their 9-year-old, so why would you let a child see Joker? Don't let the news do your job, that's part of active parenting. Marvel specifically is a brand that's going to need to learn how to produce unique content that challenges the watcher, and because of that, I would hope that Kevin Feige sees Joker and is taking notes, not only about the film itself, but about its place within the greater discussion of comic book film. Joker is a film about quite a bit more than we typically see, and I think it presents a unique opportunity to create a separate genre of film altogether. I do fully believe that Marvel's going to continue to generate films exactly like the ones that we've seen before, and by all means they should. They should continue to generate films that are easily digestible summer blockbusters. They're really good at it. Characters like Thor, the Guardians, Captain Marvel, Hulk, Doctor Strange, and more are all prime real estate to tell giant Hollywood summer blockbuster films, but also recognize that censorship and artistic limitations exist within that genre of film. Where many people were hoping that a post-Endgame MCU might offer a unique opportunity to kind of hit the reset button and start a different path, movies like Spider-Man Far From Home have done little to challenge the formula. And Disney's going to continue to operate under the mantle of if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but they should fix it, or more accurately, figure out a way to expand it. Marvel needs to be able to carve out new space within this genre. They are the industry leader within it, and their pace dictates where the entire genre goes from here. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that Marvel should start pumping out Joker clone films. But I do think that Disney and Marvel should use Joker to solve one of the biggest problems that their films consistently have: villains that lack some type of compelling motivation. Fundamentally, there's only so much you can do within a 2-hour movie. Oftentimes the films that Marvel and DC make attempt to cram a whole bunch into that film. Establish the hero, establish the villain, juggle a romantic interest. It's not easy to do all of this crap, which is why I've advocated that more comic book properties should actually be television shows. Comics, after all, are episodic and have the benefit of years and years and years of existence, but you can't really do most of these characters justice in the limited screen time that they have. You would think that Marvel would have figured that out by now, considering some of their largest smash hit movies are ones that focus on a villain and their origin, backstory, motivation, and goals. Now that we've had this tremendous pantheon of heroes on the big screen, maybe we can spend a little less time retreading old ground and some more time developing villains who are more than cannon fodder to push forward to the next film. Particularly poor villains within the MCU are characters like Ronan, Ultron, Yellow Jacket, and Malekith. These also happen to be films that spend the majority of their time introducing heroes or spending exorbitant amounts of time on other elements outside of the main good guy versus bad guy narrative. But films that do manage to spend the majority of their time focusing on building a compelling villain and world also happen to be some of the highest rated and most praised. Eric Killmonger in Black Panther, Bucky Barnes in Hydra within Civil War, and of course, the Blueprint, the Mad Titan himself, Thanos in Infinity War and Endgame. I mean, if you think about it, Infinity War was basically a Thanos movie. He was in most of the scenes. But I think the finest example of why Marvel should invest in spending a little bit more time developing unique villains and compelling villains actually comes from Daredevil. And this gave us the most captivating villain in the entire MCU, in my own opinion, which is Wilson Fisk. Fisk wasn't a tremendously complicated character, much like Arthur Fleck, and while these characters are virtually nothing alike, they both do an excellent job of demonstrating how if you invest time into developing your villain, your investment pays off. And Marvel is a powerhouse within the film industry, so much so that it's more likely that you hear a comic book film referred to as a Marvel movie than anything else. But as I stated before, we do live in a post-Endgame world. We all knew that the MCU was building towards a specific event, and now that that event has ended, audiences are going to be less likely to invest in the same old. It's time for Marvel to start pushing the boundaries of what we consider the genre to be. DC has already shown you that you can make a tremendous film that challenges convention if you're just brave enough, and surely Marvel has the pantheon of characters to do it. It's just a matter of, finding out if they're brave enough. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from. Again, I am a massive MCU fan, and I'm looking forward to everything that's coming from them. But sometimes being a fan of something means challenging that thing to be the best version of itself that it can be. This has been Nick with Key Issues. Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, yada yada yada, all that junk. Thank you guys for watching this video, and remember the motto, comics over everything.